about 2-3 allocation given, shared every month should be shared. People begin to be aware. This is what is due for our local government or state. We begin to ask, okay, we received this within this April. What did you use for it? NFIE one. Secondly, the National Orientation Agency should be at the front burner to sensitize the Nigerian populace. They should have offices in local areas, these offices, whose duty it is to be going to go to community, have town hall meetings, to give them the knowledge, the idea of coming together, working in collaboration with them. The people in authority, those people in those government areas that are elected to serve us, will wake up, to be a wake-up call for them. Thirdly, the ICPC, just recently, they held a meeting with the local government officials and also told them they're going to be tracking their expenses or whatever. They did not stop at that hall. Let that particular resolution be implemented, be enforced. And not to say, we have told you, go and do this, and at the end of the day, money will come to the local government. Maybe they pay directly to them, but the governor will sit in the comfort of it and say, bring 40%, bring 60%. We are the one crossing this road to this, and they will carry it cap in hand and go and drop in cash to the governors. At the end of it all, they only go home with just the little overhead they pay and little things. And they say, when you look at the government officials that we have today, none of them can command any cloud around them. So when the government play this role, the civil society will also have a role to play. The citizenry. Because no government, no country in the world is different from the attitude or the character of their people. And that is why the way you behave, the attitude you show within the space we find ourselves, within this television house, is how they were going to see it. If you come here and behave as if it doesn't really matter, people will not take senior television serious. But if you behave as that it matters, every morning, everybody all over the world want to wait for Good Morning the World from senior television. That's how it happens in the community. When the civil society plays that role, the media will support them. The media, basically the radio aspect, where the rural areas hears more, I think. Then the community development associations should get involved, should be brought together. And by this engagement, we now tell people in the community that we can do something new. Let's begin to form small pressure group, I think, to ask questions on this, on that, and that. Before that is done, if these three front line comes together, I tell you, later than now, you will see that the things will change for good. But long as both the government angle, the civil society angle, the community angle are feeling that we are on our own to attend Israel, the center can never meet. The center can never meet.
I want to say a very big thank you, Nze Chimaroke and Wosu, for your time. I mean, it's been one refreshing conversation as it relates to local government autonomy. Federal government, going as far as taking states to court and winning that case. The Supreme Court did the pronouncements in July. And now we're seeing state governors lobbying the federal government not to go ahead with the implementation. It's just crazy. And I just wonder, these governors are just 36. They're just going to be there for 8 years. How about looking long term in order to make the country better for it? It's just terrible what we're seeing, really. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much.
We're back after this. Just stay with us.
Save Nature TV, news in your pocket. Save Nature TV. News in your pocket. Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
It's 4 after 9 a.m. across Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining in. And we're still on the morning show. And we'll do a little bit of healthcare this morning, and specifically talking about sickle cell anemia and the prevalence of that and the prevention, as the case may be. We have Zoom this morning all the way from Kebbi State. The person of Hajia Khadiza Yahya Shantali. She's a founder, coordinator, Kebbi Sickle Cell Association, KESCA. Thank you, madam, for joining us. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right, for the benefit of those who do not know what sickle cell anemia is about, can you just explain to us what sickle cell as a disease is and its prevalence in Nigeria?
Well, sickle cell disorder is inherited blood disorder, which means you inherit it from both of your parents. Your mother must have a sickle cell genes and your father must also have for you to have sickle cell disease. So according to statistics, Nigeria have 25% of people living with sickle cell genes. And it's said that Nigeria is also the home of sickle cell patients across the world. Thank you.
Okay. How accessible are these awareness, especially as it concerns the information around sickle cell? We understand that sometimes people don't care about their genotypes. They just go ahead with the love that they have or the likeness that they have for their spouses. And sometimes even with the knowledge of the consequences of those actions, they go further. How much of this awareness do you think exists and around our nation?
Well, the awareness, I would say, is very, very limited, especially in my state, Kebbi State, which is why Kebbi Sickle Cell Association, KESLA, is born. It's an NGO made by people living with sickle cell disorder, our doctors and our parents, and anyone who wishes. The awareness is very, very limited because we have remote areas and we have a community where most people are not really aware. And we have a community who are more interested in intermarriages and who also doesn't really care much about those kind of issues. So the awareness is very, very limited. Although KESCA is trying very, very hard to create this awareness so that more and more people will know knowledge of genotype and also know their genotype. In that regard, KESCA is doing a genotype counseling, and also we are doing genotype counseling. We have an office which also do genotype screening. We do genotype screening and we do certificates, and we enter 17 local government out of 21 local governments in Kebbi State, so that we make sure people know their genotype. By knowing their genotype, it will help people to prevent them from having children with sickle cell, because if you know your genotype is AS and you know the person that you are supposed to marry is definitely not AS. So we are trying very hard to create this awareness throughout the community. Thank you.
When a child is given birth to and you know is assumed to have this issue regarding sickle cell, what's the first thing that the healthcare practitioner does? And I also have heard, I don't know how true this is, that if you're a sickle cell patient, your life is limited in terms of you don't grow beyond 21 years, for some 42 years, depending on how you are able to manage the sickle cell diseases.
So I would say this hearing is definitely misleading, because I'm also a sickle cell advocate and also a sickle cell patient. I'm living now for 54 years of age. But sickle cell starts as early as 6 months. A child will be diagnosed with sickle cell. It will start with swelling of arms and feet. And then definitely that child needs to be taken to the healthcare. And then the doctors will now start putting him on treatment. They have to take normal routine drugs, which comprises of mostly folic acid and some vitamins. And then the child needs to be taken to the hospital frequently for care. So children that really get good care from childhood, they normally live a very good life. Some of them, they don't have frequent crises. But you see a very bad cases of sickle cell where parental care is lacking. And most people, yes, we lose a lot of patients with sickle cell, but management and care is the key. When you have a management in the hospital and parental care, a child can really live his maximum lifespan. So honestly, the lifespan is misleading. That was a long time ago. Even when I was in the university, I was being told my days are numbered from my fellow colleagues. But in the class, we learned that it's just management and care, and which is what my parents tried their best. And I also get the care from the medical personnel. So if the parents are caring, and anytime the child have this crisis, they make sure that they take him to get attention of the doctors. I don't think there is a limitation in life. We have elder patients with sickle cell. The last one I saw in my other groups was somebody of 82 years old, and she is still kicking very well. And I think that is it. Thank you.
Some people say it's very expensive treating sickle cell patients, and that some of the reasons, of course, it was the fact that some parents are not able to foot the bills of, you know, a patient when they finally get the diagnosis of a sickle cell anemia. For you, I mean, how expensive has it been for you and for your family, and then the resources that has come with it? Aside your own personal experiences, do you also have someone who has had that experience of not being able to take care of a patient that is under their care?
Definitely, I agree with you that it do not come easy financially. You see, sickle cell has both economic and emotional burden to the patient and his parents. In the patient side, there is a stressful angle of having frequency in crisis, and on the parental side, there is angle of your child getting sick and you are rushing to take him to the hospital. The hospital will require us to give the patient treatment. Sometimes he might even need blood. All these things cost money. So that is why you see most of our members that we lost are mostly from the rural communities, where you have less money less economic power. So you find out you miss those kind of patients. So for me, I've been very lucky. My father is very well-to-do, and he really took good care of me. He educated me in the UK. Because that time when I was born, we don't know much about sickle cell. So he took a bold step. He took me to England, and then he got me educated there. And that was where I started my school. And then from there on, I come back to Stanford University. I finished my degree. I started working my career as a banker for 23 years. So you see, the journey of sickle cell, honestly, for anybody is very, very expensive. And I believe it's mostly like any other disease that you are born with. It's also expensive. But managing a child of sickle cell disease, it needs financial assistance, definitely. And that is why we lose most of our members in the rural community because of lack of financial assistance. Thank you.
What are other major challenges that healthcare practitioners face in taking care of, a sickle cell patient, and how can these challenges be mitigated against?
Healthcare challenges. You see, when you present a child of sickle cell to the hospital, the most important thing is for that child to get immediate attention at the emergency. The first challenge comes, like I said, financially, because at the emergency, they will require you to buy some things. And then also, then they will start taking care of you. So it's a lot of challenges now to some parents, the financial challenges. But once you be the medical personnel, most of our sickle cell patients, you find out when they're trying to get our veins to put us IV. Our veins, I don't know, it's very common with many of us. The veins are very thin. It's very difficult for them to get IV and put it for us, especially when we are during crisis. So for them, it's a challenge to them. And then they need to control the crisis, because the crisis normally come in intense pain. You will enter the emergency, crying, moving up and down, looking for relief. So for them to be able to calm us down for a time, sometimes they will put IV, and then they'll start giving us injections or some drugs to take care of the pains. So they need to be very attentive at that particular period until they see us coming down. Sometimes if it's anemia, sometimes we present to the hospital with a severe anemia. On that case of severe anemia, you see there is a danger in getting the blood quickly, or if you delay the getting the blood, anemia also leads to heart failure. So they will be rushing, looking for the blood to ensure that they get us that blood on time before the heart now fails into heart failure. So for them, they must be very active at the critical time. Most cases they are. But the issue is sometimes when you find a long queue at the emergency, and it's also a serious challenge. Thanks.
All right. What is the standard treatment for treatment of the sickle cell disease?
Standard treatment. You see, as I will tell you the standard treatment as a patient, because I'm not a medical personnel, or what our doctors normally do when we enter crisis. Sickle cell crisis is like a blockage. There is this sickle cell gene, sickle cell, which is like a shape of this half moon, and that shape of the blood. It now passes into your blood capillaries, and it will block the vessels of your blood, and that is what is causing the extreme pain you are feeling. So what the doctors try to do for us, they make sure they flush it by using intravenous. Now they use our drip, they use drip for us. When they put drip for us, and now they give us some pain relief. It could be either an injection, or they will give us an oral, depending on the severity of the pains. They will assess the pain, and they will decide whether we need an IV or we need an oral. But when the pain is very severe, normally they give it to IV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that the government needs to apply some policies or create some policies that would help mitigate the or maybe even champion a cause that would assist with treatment of sickle cell? And do you think there are policies that exist that takes care of it? And do you think more policies should be developed? And if you think so, what kind of policies should be developed around that?
Yes, definitely. I personally believe, and also the NGO PESCA, we believe policy should be put in place so that to assist people not to have sickle cell. You know, they say prevention is better than cure. So if we have policy that says know your genotype before marriage, and then we have a policy that says attend to sickle cell patient at present, the moment he attend to emergency, or anyway, attend to him first. And then we have a special clinic that will take care of our sickle cell patient. The moment sickle cell needs to be managed by hematologists. It's not every doctor that will manage sickle cell. But you find out some doctors come and they are managing sickle cell. But those hematologists, they have knowledge of blood disorder, any kind of blood disorder. So when they see a patient, they will not only treat the crisis, they will also look at the blood component and see what other things they need to treat. So having those personnel put in a care, in a unit that will just attend to sickle cell patients, it will help us greatly, because when we present to the hospital, we know we are not going to go at the emergency. We know we are going to go directly to that special unit made for us. So policies like that, we have already drafted a sickle cell bill, and we're taking it to the last assembly in Kebbi State government, and it went through second reading, and then the bill is we have to now go and visit this new assembly to follow it up, because that will really help our patients. It will also help the community, because they will be made to do their genotype before they get married. And I don't think anybody will now see a sickle cell patient managed by somebody, another parent that you know, and then you are wishing to have your own child with sickle cell. Definitely, if you know your genotype, and then you know the genotype or the spouse you are supposed to marry, and you see you have AS, he has AS, definitely you make a right decision, because you don't want your child to be falling into that situation. It's going to be a life journey of pains. From the 6 months you are born with, continuous pain. It is a continuous pain throughout your lifespan, and you can only be managed when you have those crises, and it will come anytime without warning. It will come during extreme conditions. It will also come during hot season, cold season, wet season. You don't know when it's coming. So knowledge of individual genotype is very, very important. And those policies to ensure it will also help the community.
When the attack happens, especially for those who live with the disease, is it different from person to person? Or is there a specific way that it comes to people who live with it? And how do they mitigate it? Is it a helpless situation, not being able to, hold off the attack, or that you are giving some signs that this attack is about to happen or is going to happen before it does happen?
Yes, definitely there is a do's and don'ts of sickle cell. You see, there is some things that if you do, definitely you are going to get an attack. Example is you walk through the rain. Some children like to play in the rain. And when they go out in the rain, they play, they come back inside. A child of sickle cell will end up having crisis. And then a child of sickle cell will not go outside the sun. He will get sweat, and the sweat will leave on his clothes. He will come and start going under the fan to dry up. That drying up will also trigger sickle cell crisis, you see. And then you also have conditions like harmattan, this whole season, where a child of sickle cell will now come outside without wearing socks or hat or any cover. She will go somewhere quickly to buy something and come. Then that child will definitely have crisis. And then, this hazard. Sometimes parents will ask their children to do some chores. You ask a child of sickle cell to go and fetch water for you. We have cases like that. They will go and fetch water. They will come back home to start having crisis. And then the dose of sickle cell is you avoid those things. Then you go for your daily routine drugs. Don't forget to take them. And also don't to make sure you go to checkup. We have weekly clinics. It's not everybody that goes for weekly clinics. When you go for that weekly clinic, the doctor will tell you the next time of visit. So if you avoid those things, you know the signs. When you are going to have crisis, for us that are under patient, we know the signs. We start feeling it. And then when we start feeling it, we'll be feeling it. It will come small, small. Sometimes you'll be stretching your body, and you know it will be like that. Sometimes you'll be feeling something like chilling. You know it's going to be a sign. So you now have to start your home treatment by taking your medication. And then if you take the medication in time, sometimes it doesn't spread. But once you leave it and you don't take it, you just feel it moving, and it will go over your body, and then by the time you go to hospital you'll be crying, and that was when the doctor will now be looking for IV to start flushing with the drip and so on. So definitely sickle cell have its own do's and don'ts. So what we do within KESCA in our NGO is we have a monthly members forum. On that members forum, we catch them young. We educate our younger ones so that they know the do's and don'ts of sickle cell, so that they know how to recognize the sign and take action. And then we get the mothers on quarterly parents forum. We now tell our mothers, this is what you should do to your child. This is the kind of food you should give him, and this is the kind of thing you should prevent him. Don't allow him to walk in the rain. Don't send your child to fetch water. This is not the kind of child you send to fetch water. Because once he's fetch water, the money you'll be spending in treating him, it will be too much. So these children, they need a lot of care. And they don't like stressful condition. When you stress them too much, it will trigger crisis. And when it triggers crisis, it's difficult for the child, and it's also difficult for you. You find out the mothers, when they present themselves to the hospital, the child is crying, the mother is also crying. So you don't want to put yourself in that kind of condition. So anything that you can do to prevent it is always better for you. And that is my own.
All right, and speaking of awareness, really, I mean, I've seen people who, even with knowing their status, their genotypes, they still go ahead to get married to those whose genotypes are not compatible. You know, so you would wonder really, to what extent is awareness for those who even know help in mitigating some of these things?
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you. We have several cases of people that really know and they are well educated and still go ahead. They call it love. So myself, okay, I believe in love. But if you know your genotype and the genotype of your spouse is going to produce a sickle cell child for you, and you are still willing to go ahead with it, fine. Get ready to take care of the child. That is my only object. When I go for awareness, you can't say 100% people must listen to your voice, because this your voice is supposed to help them and it's supposed to help their future generation. But they said no, they want to do it their way because they like their partners, they can't let go. My saying is, I always say, get ready for your sickle cell child. Get ready, because one chance of your children is going to be a sickle cell child. So get ready to take care of that child. When that child needs you, you need to take him to hospital. You need to take care of him financially, and you need to support that child. Educationally, you need to support them, because once a sickle cell child is supported, both financially and educationally, they are very bright children. They normally excel. You know, they excel in their future. They will have their own jobs. Then they start taking care of them. But taking care of a child with a sickle cell disorder definitely is not an easy task. It's not an easy task. Both financially, as I said earlier, and economically, it's not an easy task. So, but still people want to go ahead. My saying is, get ready to take care of that child. You produce that child and you bring it to the world. And without this knowledge, so please take care of that child. It's not his doing. He doesn't want to be born with sickle cell. You are the one that choose that thing for him. So please get ready to take care of that child.
But is the risk worth taking? Is love enough to embark on that type of, journey?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how extent of people see love, But me, left alone, I always say, know your genotype and marry the correct genotype. Get genetic counseling, and that is I'm an advocate, and this is what I'm advocating for, knowledge of individual genotype, and getting genetic counseling before marriage is very, very important. Nobody wants to have a sick child. Let it be sickle cell, asthmatic, or anything. But sickle cell is a serious disorder because once a child is born with it, as I said earlier, it will start with 6 months. And for you to have a journey of pains from 6 months to say like 54 years, it's not an easy task. Even in school, sometimes you miss schools. You miss schools, and sometimes at work, you miss work. So you have to work twice as hard as you are normal people. If you want to excel, you will not just be attending, doing normal things. You have to think of doing excelling, doing extra more, so that you'll be also rated to be a performing staff. If you have sickle cell, you have to prove yourself because it's a challenge. It's a challenge that will not allow it to be a burden in your life because sickle cell should not be a burden to any child. A child with sickle cell should learn to live with it and should learn how to excel in life with it because it will not get better, it will not get worse, but it will happen anytime. So you have to learn to live with it.
All right. Hajiya Khadiza Yahya Shantali, founder, coordinator, Kebbi Sickle Cell Association. Many thanks for your insights on the topic of sickle cell as it relates to its prevalence in Nigeria. Many thanks for your time. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. We're back shortly after this to stay with us.
It will not help our economy. That's why we are praying that God will help us so that we can be able to touch, God will touch their mind in order to better the civil servants. Because the power of the nation is the civil servant. Because with the civil servants, our economy will be. See, this morning I went to somewhere where I normally pay 600 before. I paid 19 because of the fuel something. Because of that, we don't drive our motor again. If I don't have any serious thing that will make me to drive my motor, I don't go out again. One is 960, some 1,000, some 1,200. We are pleading that God will touch them, and it's not good for them staying at home, and they cannot afford going to work every day. Okay, see the minimum wage they are talking, they have not paid.
Basically, I feel that if...
Welcome to your show, the signature show with Vin Martin Obiora, Ilo. We want to look at the part religion can play in politics and development in Nigeria, in Africa. So today we're looking at religion, politics, and development. And we have someone very qualified to talk about it. We have in our studio someone who is a Catholic priest. He's also a professor of African Studies, and he is a professor at DePaul University in Chicago, the United States. He is Professor Stan Chu Ilo. He wrote a book about development, has written another about religion. So today he'll be talking to us about religion, politics, and development. And much later in the program, we'll be talking about women and golf in Nigeria. Just recently, the Nigerian women were part of a competition that took place in Ghana. That competition is called the All African Challenge Trophy, AACT. It took place in Achimoto Golf Club in Accra, Ghana. And our women were led by the president of the Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria, Mrs. Ekanem Ekweme. Mrs. Ekanem Ekweme is already in the studio, and in a moment she'll be joining me to talk about women and golf in Nigeria. These and many more. Don't go away. Your show continues. Joining us, welcome to the Signature Show. And with me in the studio is Professor Stan Chuilu. Professor Stan Chuilu is a research professor of African Studies at the Paul University in Chicago. He's also a Catholic priest. Father Stan, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Religion, politics, and development. Let's take it back. In the traditional African communities, what was the relationship between religion, politics, and development?
Well, traditional African society didn't have those separations because the African worldview is a holistic worldview. So, meaning that the distinction between religion and politics, as well as religion, politics, and development, didn't exist. To be religious is to belong fully and well integrated in the larger web of life, to participate in the social relations, to participate in economic relation. So, religion in traditional African society was so essential to the shaping of the communal identity. So traditional religious leaders were actually people who at the same time were investment advisors, if you like. They were healers that we went to when we needed someone to give us direction about the sickness that we have. And religion, therefore, shaped the character. It also shaped the communal identity into which issues of development emerged, because development in terms of the evolution of society from one level to another was something that was inbuilt into the socio-ecology. So people, for instance, had to farm to produce food. And in order to produce food, they believed that the ancestors would bless the land. And in order for the ancestors to bless the land, they believe that they embody in their daily choices ethical values that would lead to the production and fruitfulness of the earth. At the same time, those involved in leadership must also be religious, meaning that the values they embody must flow from these ancestral values, because it's like generational, intergenerational, from one generation to the other. So really, religion, politics, and development in traditional African society were inseparable, but they all touched each other. Someone cannot be a leader if the person was not seen to be following the ancestral traditions, observing the ethos of the ancestors, observing the values. Someone cannot be a leader if you cannot promote communal life, if you cannot advance society. And someone cannot be a leader if that person doesn't have a moral compass that is rooted in this communal participation. Because at the heart of African traditional religion is participation. That means that I am related to you, not simply because there is a functional relationship, but because there is something intrinsic, the bondedness, our life together has meaning and can be enriched if we upheld certain ethical principles and practices that can help create this holistic society. So that's the way traditional African society understood religion.
When Christian religion, for instance, came in, when Islam came in, did it fast track development, or was it something that stalled development, as some scholars have said?
Well, I belong to a school of thought that feel that we must, move into a post-development era. What you call development, properly speaking, is really new forms of Western imperialism. You see, at the beginning, at the end of the Second World War, there was a conscious attempt to redefine the world. You know, the League of Nations, at the formation of the League of Nations, some of the people, principal actors at that league, actually understood what you call today the Global South, that is in Africa, Latin America, and Asia, understood that to be a region that is underdeveloped, that is the third world. You see, so you got the first world, the second world, and the third world. So that was the, if you like, the compass with which they wanted to navigate the social evolution of these other nations, which, as at the time of the League of Nations and subsequently the formation of the United Nations, most of which were under colonialism. So what we call development, for many who belong to this school of thought, has been a failed attempt to reconfigure the social, economic, and political lives of non-Western societies after this so-called Westernization, or modernization theory that says that society, especially so-called backward society, can only get better if they did what? If they embraced Western orthodoxy, economic orthodoxy, if they embraced Western democracy, if they embraced, in this regard, Western religion, which was Christianity. So Christianity, therefore, came into Africa with a clear agenda. On one hand, there's, one will see that there's been a lot of development, if you use that word, in terms of healthcare, education. However, the Christian religion has consciously, if you like, made several attempts in order to help the so-called evolution of African society. And as a Catholic, I think that the Catholic social principles and Catholic social ethics have been very significant in redefining this development terrain, especially the critique of neoliberal capitalism, the idea that says that wealth is might and that the individual is expendable. Globalization then came in as this new, if you like, octopus that held its trajectile hand on everything going on in the world. The social, the economic, the political, all were just held together in this, if you like, complex web. So Africa was playing in this web. And so I think what Christianity or what Catholicism has done in a more specific sense is really a conscious attempt to redefine development away from neoliberal economic orthodoxies, globalization discourses, and modernization theories into finding what you might call common grounds where everyone has a fair shot.
For those of us in the third world, for those of us that are in Africa, did it bring any value?
Yes and no. You see, I believe that no culture, no civilization, no people will be developed, if we use that word development to understand, modernization, things getting better, progress. If we just consider that understanding of development, I believe that Africa cannot be developed by non-Africans. Because, there is a saying that among the Yorubas that if you do not plug the holes in your barn, the rabbit that eats your yam will return. Now, if we understand the international structure, the global order, that everyone is trying to protect their own turf. Look at Trump. He says America first. Look at Brexit. That should sound the alarm bell to those Africans who think that their redemption will come from outside Africa. What I think is happening is that individuals and societies are beginning to redefine what is the turf on which they are playing and what are the terms and conditions under which they will play in a way that protects their own cultural values, the economic, social, and political values and goals within the global conversation about global ethics, international order, and all that.
I've heard things like so many Christians, churches everywhere, so many mosques, Muslims everywhere. And there's so much corruption in a place like Nigeria. There's so much corruption in a country like Kenya, South Africa, name it. But these are very deeply religious people. So we talked about religion in the traditional setting. In the contemporary times, today, has religion helped politics and development?
I would say yes and no. Yes, because some people feel like the prayer for Nigerian in distress, at least people have not come to a point where they despair to the point of taking their own lives, to the point of really despondency, high level.
Some people are taking their lives
yes.
in Nigeria, though.
But it has not become an epidemic like in the United States. You see, in the United States last year, 45,000 Americans took their own lives. But America is considered a first world nation, prosperous. In Chicago, where I live, this year alone, over 631 homicides. So the point here is that everything boils down to what is the goal of life. Now, in terms of what religions have contributed and how they have, so the positive aspect is that religion, Christianity, it embodies hope. It embodies a sense of community. It embodies a sense of righteousness, of right and wrong, authentic Christianity. Now, how do people get to the heart of Christianity, which is love of God and love of neighbor, which is also, so you become loving, but you also become lovable by virtue of the way of life that you lead. Now, so I think on one hand there is this, but on the other hand is what in former times we call the God of the gaps, the God of the gaps. In pre-scientific era, many people who didn't have scientific explanation for what was going on around them, they filled this scientific, non-scientific knowledge with God. So when it rains, okay, God has brought down the rain. When it doesn't rain, oh, God is punishing us. Somehow, I think that's what is happening in some forms of Christianity today. Someone will talk about God, Jesus covering the potholes with the blood of Jesus. And people will shout amen before they leave traveling from the east to Lagos or vice versa. So I think what we have is an abuse of religion. Authentic religion, authentic Christianity is about creating a new society. A society that is righteous, a society where people have a sense of solidarity, and a society where people have a sense of ultimate concern that things today and things around us, these are all instruments in order to advance our lives to the life beyond.
Was it what you were saying in that volume you edited, The Search for Abundant Life, Health, Wealth, and Hope?
Yes, because, many people agree that religion, African traditional religion, embodies a moral tradition of abundant life. Abundant life is not prosperity. Abundant life is what the Igbos will call ujundo, ezibondo, fullness of life, a good life. There is nothing better than the fact when someone says, he is a good man, she is a good man. That is what in traditional African society a religious person is, simply a good man, a righteous man, a full man. So who embodies a totality of function. He's able to cultivate the land, he's able to say the truth, he's able to participate in political discourse. His word can be trusted. He's a man of integrity. That is what we did in that book, to say people are searching for abundant life, that is fullness of life. They want coherence in their life. They want coherence between their religious profession and their religious action. But they're not finding it. Rather, they're being fed with, wishy-washy faith, or devotionalism. So God becomes an instrument. But Christianity is a way of life. it's an end in itself. It's not a means to an end. So what has happened is that we have Christianity that has become purely functional Christianity, superstitious Christianity.
Commercial?
Yeah, magical Christianity. Yeah, I mean, Peter Berger wrote a book, The Sacred Canopy, where he calls the market value theory of religion. That, I mean, Peter Berger is not the best advert for Christianity or religion, but his book Sacred Canopy gives this theory that for many people, religion, especially when you look at what's going on, religion or Christianity in a more specific sense becomes like, you know, like a shopping mall where you're checking to buy a shirt, so you got to try here, you got to try here, and so it's competition. So what you have is competition. What you have is also fragmentation. It's a sign that our society is fragmented. Religion brings coherence and cohesion to society. It's a bond. Abundant life is not just something about me. It's cosmic and human flourishing. That's what abundant life means. But the question is, are we having cosmic and human flourishing? Are people flourishing in Nigeria, in Africa? It is to the extent that this happens that one can say that we have authentic religion. Otherwise, what we have is abuse of religion, and it will dissipate over time because it doesn't leave any traditions of holiness or wisdom or traditions of development and, newness.
You talked about the concept or philosophy of the good man, the righteous man. Can we describe our leaders today as good men, righteous men?
Who am I to judge?
Based on the oaths they swear to protect the Constitution, to provide a better life for those that follow them.
Yeah, I have written in my diary, just within the last few days I've been in the country, after traveling by road from Abuja to ENUGU and seeing the road, how bad the road is, especially towards Ajokuta and Lokoja, and moved around in my home state of ENUGU in Ababa area, seeing how bad the road is. And the express road from Onitsha to ENUGU is horrible. You know, the one from ENUGU to Port Harcourt is awful. And I left this country 17 years ago. I do not see any significant progress. What I see is what the Brazilian economist Celso Furtado calls growth without development. You're seeing growth, you're seeing some buildings, but you're not seeing development in terms of the change in the quality of people's lives. So, and I wrote in my diary that any religious leader who, seeing what is going on in this country at this point in time in Nigeria, fraternizes with these leaders, should be considered a heretic. A heretic means someone who is promoting false teaching. So you cannot hobnob with men and women who have debauched the very essence of what political and African traditional leadership means. The African traditional leader is a man of integrity. He's a man of sacrifice. He's a good man. He's a wise man. The same with women. The women, in traditional African society, they embody the finest virtues and values of the land. That's how you become a leader, because you embody the vision. You model the way. You encourage the heart. And you are an embodiment of a shared vision. Unfortunately, with due respect, I think that in the present political arrangement in the land, we are not playing with our first 11. I'm not sure even if we are playing with our reserve team. So, unfortunately, our people have accepted this kind of, thing, because somebody was telling me about a state governor said, oh, he builds roads. I said, was he elected to destroy the roads in the first place? So we have a fundamentally dysfunctional value syndrome. And it's not just about leadership. I don't believe in top-down leadership, but I think leadership is very decisive. But as Asemogu and discussed in Why Nations Fail. Nations fail because of extractive leadership. And unless there emerges a creative destruction of this system, this institutional failure that has chained our people to an ever-revolving cycle of poverty, suffering, and despair, unless there is a creative destruction, this nation would not realize its destiny. But our land is so blessed. Great people, great minds. You know, everywhere I go, I travel around the world. Everywhere I go, you see great Nigerians. Why do they flourish outside Nigeria? And when they come here, they tend to be stymied by, you know, some kind of what I can't fully articulate, you know. I don't know. So I think we have a problem of leadership, but we also have a problem of dysfunctional value syndrome, where there are no consequences in this country for bad behavior. There are no merits for good behavior. So you must know so and so person in order to get a job, even though you are good at what you do. And then people break the law and they don't suffer consequences. And so the nation, I mean, there are positive things happening. I'm not an Afro-pessimist. I believe that what you see in this nation in Africa are only signs that we are not satisfied with what is happening. It is an invitation, like I think St. Augustine said, what you need to bring change is anger, that things are not what they ought to be, and courage that you can help make a difference.
Professor Stan Trilo, I think that's the best point to leave this conversation. And I must thank you for your time and for your very insightful discussions. And to wish you a safe journey back to Chicago.
Thank you very much.
I've been speaking with Professor Stan Trilo, who is a Catholic priest and also a research professor of African Studies at the Paul University in Chicago. Watching the Signature Show, and that was Professor Stan Trilo, Catholic priest and professor of African Studies at the Paul University in Chicago, United States of America. And with me in the studio, as I told you earlier, is Mrs. Ekanem Ekweme, who is the President, Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria. Madam, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Your women were in Ghana for the All Africa Challenge Trophy AACT. Tell me about it. What was the experience like?
It was very colorful, very overwhelming, I think we were very patriotic, I must say, because immediately the Nigerian supporters entered Accra, arrived in Accra. I think the color of Accra turned to green and white.
The All Africa Challenge Trophy, who usually comes for it?
Okay, it's just like the name entails, it's an African ladies amateur golf championship.
Okay.
And all African countries are supposed to participate in the challenge. This year we had 19 entries, though 18 countries turned up. I think the highest they've ever had is 25 countries. You know, some countries don't have a ladies organized section to bring today, because you actually have to have single handicappers, like very good lady golfers, to support your country, because you're flying the flag of your country. So it's for all African ladies. And it kind of encourages us to bring out champions who can go ahead and become professionals, you know, and it's just a way of helping ladies to play more golf.
For a competition like this, I want to assume the government sponsors it, or how is it done? Is it a government sponsored group of players, or did you go there by yourselves? How did you make participation possible as president of the Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria?
Usually, all other countries when they come, they are being sponsored by their government.
They are supposed to be they are sponsored by their government.
Yes, they are sponsored by their government.
So the same thing happened with your
No. We don't get sponsorship from government. We don't.
Why? Is it a normal thing, or why? I mean, if other countries are sponsoring their women to this kind of competition,
most countries come under the federation's sponsorship.
That's the Nigerian Golf Federation.
Yes, most countries come. And of course, that funding is supposed to go from the ministry to the federation. Or sometimes the federation is on its own, so it sponsors the ladies too, because they are representing their country in these events. But we normally just source for funds, go to corporate organizations, get individuals in the golfing sector who understand what we're going for. And then this year, luckily, with my exposure, and experience, I was able to talk to go into partnership with a kinetic sports. Some gentlemen who believed in what we were going to do and also want to help ladies in golf, to grow in Nigeria. So they partnered with us and were able to support the team and the supporters to go to Ghana.
What kind of delegation did you go to Ghana with?
I went to Ghana with a contingent of 57 people. I went with a TV crew, cameraman, a photographer, and the most important one was that we went with a team coach, which has never been done because normally we don't have funding for that, So
but this year you got funding for you to go with a team coach?
Kinetic sports, yeah.
Okay.
So we went with a team coach, and I must say that I really commend them because they came in late. Normally other countries, by now they've started grooming the people that will represent the country in 2 years' time. But we got that funding like a month, so we had to put up a team that will go and play. Took the best of our three and made sure that I took some juniors to expose them so that maybe just get their determination, psych them up, to get interested in trying to represent. Maybe they'll go there and watch and see and want to do the same thing, because that's also a way of getting them to play this golf.
You didn't quite prepare, but I hope our country was not disgraced in Ghana.
No. Nigeria, we just always have a way of representing, I must say the flag flew higher this time because we went sponsored, So there was a feeling, there was this love, and we had the numbers, went and we tried, we played. Unfortunately, our lead player got, a spinal injury.
Oh my God.
And yes, though she still returned the best scores, but it wasn't the scores we were envisaging, So, but overall, we still made the podium. We still got a trophy. And
you don't want to tell us which position you get.
We still got a trophy. At least half of the countries didn't get trophies, but we did. So that was, there's room for improvement, really.
What do you think was the takeaway? What was the value that was added to the Nigerian Ladies Golf Association with what happened in Ghana?
What we took away was that, or me especially, was that we need young ones. We need to take golf to the public, need to introduce golf to the younger generation. We need to start bringing up people who represent Nigeria in future, because golf is a big deal. There's money in golf. We need to invest in golf, especially ladies golf. Even the home of golf, the R&A, Scotland, has started investing in ladies golf more. So while we're in Ghana, I took 2 young girls from the St. Mark Otukpo Academy. They just graduated from the academy. I took them to Ghana, and we stayed over, played, registered them for the Ghana Ladies Open. And between the 2 of them, they got 3 prizes. They got the best in the, we have a gross and net category, like overall, and then they got the best in their own categories. One of them got the nearest to the pin, and that was good. The scores they returned was, it was perfect. It was awesome. And it got me thinking, Why didn't I take them to actually represent Nigeria? You know, but the experience, because these are individual sports, you need the mental strength, you know, and they don't have it. So we need to mentor them, need to train them. If, you know, so moving forward, we need to invest in young ladies to play golf, encourage them to play golf, so we can use them as Nigeria representatives in future.
Well, you're just a couple of months in office as president of the Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria. Tell me, what kind of experience have you had this few months?
Well, it's been awesome. I can't complain. Golf for me is a passion, you know. So I actually took this position as a challenge because I just want to encourage the younger generation that we have the technological experience and knowledge, and we can make a difference, you know. And so far, so good. So far, so good. I mean, Accra, Ghana proved me right that it can be done, you know. So I took this challenge up for it to also be a paved for my younger or my mates, to show them that we can do it. We can take up this thing, change it, and then move it forward. Nigeria is a very large country with so many number of people. South Africa, if you go to the southern part of Africa, the golf there is something else. They have so many academies, they have so many schools, golf schools, and when they play, you're amazed. You love to watch them. But we don't have any of those kind of institutions here, and I really hope that through the Nigerian Golf Federation, we'll be able to install one.
What's the relationship between the Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Golf Federation?
Okay. The Nigerian Golf Federation is the national governing body of golf all over in Nigeria. Now, the Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria is the national governing body of ladies golf in Nigeria. We are affiliated to the Nigerian Golf Federation, and we're also affiliated to the R&A, which the Nigerian Golf Federation is also affiliated to. So it's like when you have a club, you have a ladies section, because the men can't handle the ladies. They must have a lady captain who takes care of the ladies' affairs. That's the same thing Elgan does for ladies in Nigeria. So we take care of where the link between Nigerian women and R&A, Nigerian women and the rest of the world.
What kind of activities do you put together for the Women Ladies Golf Associations? In a year, what do you do?
Well, in a year, it's a must that I must have a national event. It's an international event because ladies come from outside to play, all over the world to play. So you have to have the organization, the association must have that event every year. This year is going to be in November in Le Meridien Ibom, or Ibom Golf Resort now, in November. So it's called the Nigerian Ladies Open. Apart from that, we have clubs in Nigeria, clubs all over Nigeria, in different states. Those clubs have ladies sections. Those ladies sections are mandated to have an event which is tagged and open every year. A section must have an event, and that event is organized. It's an Elgan event, because once it's an open championship, it means it involves ladies all over the country.
And probably beyond.
Yeah. And through us, we can always invite people from outside to come and play those events if they are international standard, because there are certain events you can invite people from outside, and there are events you can't invite. It's not worth the trouble. So we help them organize these events. There are some states where you go, or some clubs where you go, they don't need your help. But there are some clubs you go and they need your help from the beginning to the end. So we kind of find a way to level that up.
Mr. Pueme, I mean, you are the president of the Ladies Golf Association of Nigeria. And I don't think you just jumped from nowhere and became president of Ladies Golf Association. Before now, what have been your activities in golf? I mean, what does your past talking about golf look like?
I got introduced to golf in 2002, and that's a long time ago. And I've been lady captain of the prestigious IBB International Golf and Country Club. I was lady captain 2010, 2011. Actually, when I was lady captain of IBB, we hosted the same event we went to in Accra.
The
AACT.
AACT.
Yeah, Nigeria hosted, because that event it moves around the regions, north, south, east, and west. So in 2010, the Western region hosted it, and Nigeria hosted. Now it's come back again to the West, and Ghana has just hosted. The next one is going to the South, Namibia. So I was lady captain 2010, 2011. I was also lady captain of the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Golf Course at the Air Force Base in Abuja. I actually more or less started the golf course with them, helped them to change it from brown to green, and I had to hand over that position to another lady, Justina, when I took over as president of Elgan. So I handed over last year, 2017.
When I go to most competitions, I see women like you, and especially when it's a big event like the one you went for in Ghana, they wear the pins, plenty pins like you're wearing right now. And I think I want to say, are they like military officers, because they are the ones that wear stuff like that, wear a lot of decorations and. What are these pins on your jacket? What do they represent? What are they for?
Yeah, they represent the number of tournaments you've been to, or the number of countries you've been to.
International tournaments.
Yes, international tournaments. When you go for a tournament, like I went to Accra, I got an Accra pin, a Ghanaian pin, or the tournament pin. Sometimes you get two pins. You get the tournament pin, and then you get. So those pins, when you look at someone's lapel, you know where the person has been, the tournaments the person has participated in, or has represented the country in. So this just tells the number of countries I've been to and the number of tournaments I've participated in.
Oh, it looks like a new feather in a cap.
Yes.
So it keeps increasing as you go.
Yes.
Oh, that's great, because I always wondered why people had to wear.
Yeah, there's some people have a very heavy lapel. It tells you how long they've been at it and how consistent they've been at those tournaments or going out to opens.
What do you think is the level of golf and golfing in Nigeria? Is it where we want it to be? Are we leveraging on what you said, that golf is a money earner, and that a country can actually make a lot of money from golf tourism? Do you think we are where we should be? Or if we are not, where should we be, and how can we get there?
We definitely are not where we should be. Definitely no. That's a no-no. But without the government's involvement or interference, because even when you try to, they interfere. So if the interference comes in, it doesn't work. If they don't get involved, like golf is, like you said, a big earner, but also you need to invest a lot of money.
So they should treat golf like they treat football?
More, because golf earns more than football, by far. So golf should be treated more. Football, you can wake up and train for 6 months, 1 year, and you're ready to go as a professional. You can't do that in golf. You have to grow. Golf is like life. You have to start young. You have to be disciplined. You have to be consistent. You have to go out. You get the exposure, get the technology, get all sorts, get the trainer, start well. Football, you can just kick up and down, and your golf, you need to learn how to start properly. Like, you get a writing book and you trace the writing. You have to do the same thing with golf. That's why in the Southern African countries, you see they have golf school where you go and learn, breathe, drink golf. And then you go home and read English and maths, you know. So it takes a lot of discipline. I don't know if we're that disciplined right now to go all the way to improve golf in Nigeria, because golf is a lot of money. The tourism in golf is something else.
Moving forward, where do you see the ladies golf? Where do you see it? The future? What would it look like in years to come?
We want to be optimistic, you know, and hope that with the way things are going, like getting this partnership with Kinetic Sports, they're committed now. They want to commit to helping ladies improve their golf, you know, maybe try to get some professional young ladies from Nigeria, because you can't quantify an event or sport without the professional strength. You use the professional strength of that country and the country can only earn respect outside from the professional strength of the country. That's why football, Nigeria earns a lot of respect outside when it comes to football. The Ghanaian president said something. He said the West African countries were not just lucky with the small ball. I think that was a nice way.
Not as lucky as we are with the big ball.
With the big ball. That was a nice way of putting it. The Western African countries were not just lucky with the small ball, because it's more technical, really. So I don't know. I want to be optimistic because I'm also committed. I'm passionate. I really want to help, you know, find a way. I don't know how we're going to do it, because it takes a lot of commitment, money, to find a way to improve bring up young girls who will be able to represent us in the future.
Finally, when you talk to a lot of young people, you know, they tell you that they'd love to play golf, but they are scared because everyone tells them that it's an expensive sport. Is it true?
Yeah, it is. It is. It takes a lot. It might not as expensive as
people are saying it.
But you have to be disciplined, and when I mean discipline, like maybe you have to have a different purse for golf, a different savings account for golf.
So are you saying that a young girl with 30,000 cannot buy maybe a fairly used kit and start? Because when we keep saying it's expensive, a lot of even grown-ups are scared.
With 30,000, you can get something. You can get what you can start with.
You like start training.
Training. It's like when you want to drive, you don't just go for a Rolls Royce. You start with a second-hand Tokumbo. You just find what you can afford. You know, if you really want to drive, not if you're maybe if someone dashes me a car, I'll drive. But if you really want to buy a car, of course. So that's the point where we need to encourage young ladies to get to that point where they really want to be part of that. And that's why we have clinics. We call them golf clinics, training clinics.
Are they free?
Yeah, more or less free, more or less, because you can't. It's more or less free. You just come and hit that small ball. See if you like it. From there, we get some people that get committed, come in, play, then they see that there's no money. Some ask you, how much is there money involved? They want to get the money in first before they play the game. You know, so some ask you, is there money involved? And when you say there's no money involved yet, but at least the network, the exercise, you know, others have to, most people who play it is from exposure. Most of the young